Hello and welcome. Time for a copper update, but I'm not going to do much on charts. What I'm going to do is talk about, well, charts, but very little. I'm going to go over a story or a video that I watched. It's disturbing. It's very, very disturbing for investors of precious metals, investors of numismatic and collectors. A pawn shop could have lowballed this guy better, basically. It's really, really frightening. The price of copper is in at 321 US. And it's had several hits now at the lower end of this support near 290. And it's hit this key number of Fibonacci, so it does that. And 270 was a previous area of resistance. If this level gives in, that's my target area. Other charts, this is the weekly chart. I guess in the daily term time frame, you can just see all these hits amongst the line. Nice choppy movement. I don't know the validity of these intraday spikes, but all the ones that move so on and so forth. Hey, it could be fun to day trade. Of course, I do such in cryptos, and I've done this on the physical level, and so many other people have, because pennies are part of circulation, and in some cases, like Canada, was in circulation. For this video, and I've only watched about 4 or 5 minutes of it, and I can't watch any more. It's called, this guy saved pennies for 45 years, then he cashed them in, and their total is outstanding. 7-minute, 21-second video. They never even gave me the dollar number. I read in the comments section. $5,136. Okay. Well, I don't know how many pennies that was, but there were several amount of these water tubes that he had. As we can see here, many of them. This is, I'm not drooling over this, but I kind of am, because I'm going to talk about investing into copper physically. And I've never had anywhere near as much as he had, but I accumulated an okay amount myself. I paused the video, or paused the tape as I should be saying, given me being over 40. 2,800 pounds of pennies is what he accumulated over 45 years. And a Google translator told me that was 40,800 troy ounces. I've always been familiar with a penny being about 1/20th of a penny, so that'd be about $8,000. Okay. It's very tough to approximate how much it is, because how much would the most expensive second, third, fourth, and fifth most expensive be? And they'd be probably phenomenal. I'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to talk about how I sort pennies. I started collecting pennies in the year 2008, early in that year. I would do so by always keeping them from change and sorting my change, but that was really not much. Mainly the big quantities came in by buying rolls at the bank, as well as to a few people I would talk to, and I bought a lot of their coin collections. I did this with a small amount of people, and I gave good prices. I gave good prices for the silver that they had, and so on and so forth. Very much a fair price, I would think. So higher than what pawn shop people would give, but lower than what they would sell to people for. So I'm buying it for cheaper than I would buy it from someone else, of course. So how I sorted my pennies. Well, in Canada, the dates of 1996 and earlier are copper. And then the ones 97 through 99 are a combination of that of zinc and that of copper. No, it's pure zinc. No, pure zinc, rather. Sorry, throw that aside. And they're all, pretty much pure zinc. There's smallish amounts of other metals. It's my favorite. It literally is one of my favorite coins. It's a shame how little it's worth, but I like zinc. Probably one of the best. It's just a really cheap coin, but it's one of my favorite ones. So USA, which is one of my favorite pennies, because in Canada, 2,000 pennies on got really bad, really cheap. And when I went through pennies and I got the ones from the bank or the ones from people that I got from, and I got bought maybe like 5 pounds, 6 pounds, or however much copper off of people, I'd sort it, and then the ones of like 19 Like the ones that were 2,000 on, I'd send to the bank. And I would go through their pennies and I would just examine what percentage I would consider them to be copper. And I would even work it out that if you had like say $50 worth of pennies and I thought there was an okay amount, I'd even offer like $54, $55, and everyone took it, the offers that I took. So I gave reasonable offers. I knew what to offer, and I wanted to be fair for both parties. I don't believe in ripping people off, but I believe in getting the best deal that I can, realizing if you don't sell to me, you're selling to a pawn shop. So I'm just going to do fairly better than they do. Okay. So the United States, yeah, I mean, I can't remember which of the cutoff years it was, but at least when I got American ones, everyone was zinc, at least if it wasn't. So I got a good collection of zinc coins because although it was hard to come across American pennies in Canada, I don't know, somewhere around 8 to 12% of the pennies random were American. So I would sort them by zinc and copper, but I would sort it even further. I would look for key years, great dates, and key conditions. If I had what I thought was a top MS condition 1995 penny, I was sorting that away from, I used 17, I have 17-pound jars that I used. I used what were like nut jars from Costco made with very strong plastic. And why I liked that, I thought, man, I just collected all those jars I could. Great for both that of coins and that of stuff like nails and screws for your maintenance for your home, basically. But stuff that where you hold that needs the weight, because you don't need to hold pastry in there or dough because it doesn't need that durable of containers for such. But anyway, of course, for stuff like dough, you just got to protect it against the ants and whatever. But throwing that aside, we're talking about pennies here. When you look at all these pennies, if you've been collecting for 45 years, just imagine the loot that you get in the 1960s compared to 2008, 2009. There was a big difference in what I got in my pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters on the rolls, and that I got on the early years, which was the late end of last decade, start of this one, compared to the time I stopped doing it, maybe 2013, whatever year it was, 14. That's when I stopped buying rolls from the bank. And it got to the point with nickels in 2008, you'd get 40 nickels in a Canadian roll. I was only giving back, on average, close to half, maybe a little more, as every other one was 1999 or early, or an American one. American nickels are harder to come by than Canadian pennies, but they're not hard to come by as well. Dimes, they were a little harder, and quarters were decently harder. When I used to work at a hotel for several years, I got a habit of collecting U.S. quarters. And I managed to collect over like a year and change, like, I don't know, 100 of them, 70, 60. It was hard to get. And anywhere else I can get them too. But when I worked there, I had access to more coins. And I never really checked for good MS coins. So I was unaware about the great coins to look at. I was just looking at the fact that I ever go to America, those quarters are more valuable with the currency. And I'm probably going to go to America. Or else I know someone else is going to America. Hey, you. Yeah, you're going to the States? Yeah, I got $40 with the quarters. What do you say we do... say 48, 49 for it? I mean, it's, hey, or depending, back then the exchange rate was like insane, like 60%. So I was thinking, of course, okay, I got like $50 in quarters. How about we do 70, 75? Because it literally was insane. I'm thinking this is a good way because I know there's always people going to the States. And if I accumulate a lot of them, I could sell them in large levels. So of course, you roll them up and everything, but you sell them for like, if the premium's 50%, you go like 30%. Yes, at the banks, they're par, but if you know you're just going to spend it anyway, and you're just going to buy back in the day then, you literally went to banks to turn Canadian currency to U.S. bills. At least I remember doing such at the end of the 90s as I was doing that. But a lot of great coins come available in here. You might see like a perfect condition one from 1954. Well, it's going for at least $1. It could go for $5, $10, or whatever. There's a lot of high-end coins that would be available. That for me to sort this, it would take all day to do. So when it came down to it, I accumulated 5 full jars that were 17 pounds of the non-premium copper. So they were darkish brown. So when you looked at, I had one decent sized jar of low-end grade A coins. What I mean by that is when it was a copper coin, it went in either 3 spots. It went in the normal everyday copper. It went in the high grade copper, which was more shinier when you look. It was funny, good to look at because you'd see all the jars stacked together, and you'd see all of the ones. Wow, you're like, oh my goodness! Then you'd see the one that you cleaned with vinegar, and I still own that one. It's really cool, and then you see the shiny one of the good quality. But then the super premium stuff, that I managed, and I put them in different cases, and I put them in different spots. But the ones that are super shiny, that are like, oh my goodness, this penny might be worth like $1, $2, at least 50 cents, because I mean, this is like almost mint condition, and it's 1959 or 61. It's like, I'm holding on to that baby, basically, is what I was looking at when I looked at those. So I sold 4 of the 5 normal jars about a half a decade ago for $240. That worked out to 68 pounds. 68 pounds, that worked out to under $4 per pound. That's when the price, I basically sold it to her for spot. That's what the spot price was. In fact, she ended up getting it for maybe 5-6% lower than spot. I was looking to sell it because there was 2 reasons I figured I could sell it for basically twice of its value, because there was only a little over 12,000 pennies in there, maybe 13,000 pennies, so $130 worth in mint. And the reason why I sold it for that was because of 2 reasons. One, it's copper. It's got value. So that's the obvious point. But let's look at a numismatic value. Even for the not so great condition ones, especially in mass, you got coins that are going out of circulation that may be forgotten in the upcoming decades. So you think of a long-term investment holding these coins for 20 years. There could be a major demand for these pennies, even the not so good condition, which is why it's, to me, an interesting, if you're looking at the pennies, I think the best way to go if you cannot handle the storage space is to really go for those high quality ones. The ones of the key years, the ones of the mint conditions. I got some of those ones I put in separate piles because it looks like it's a 1994 coin. But this is this the perfect condition you can get, question mark? Okay, let's put this coin over here. What's this coin going to be worth in 2037, I think to myself? Yeah, put this thing over here. Okay, keep it in good condition, so on and so forth. So that's how I did that. And same with the nickels. And now, obviously, quarters. I got some interesting quarters and nickels that are older that I put in that section as well. But I never got any amazing coins. In fact, I've never in my life ever consciously remember or ever getting through my change, through those rolls, or through, I'm not going to say through the people because that was different, but through any of the rolls that I got or through my change, I've never gotten a silver quarter or silver dime. Of course, when I had people bring in a whole bunch of pennies, dimes, and quarters, they'd bring in maybe $20 worth of pennies. And again, I'd give like $22 maybe for them, 23, depending on what ratio I thought. Sometimes if there was one person who had such a premium amount, I gave them a good 30% markup on the pennies alone. And then there was a few silver quarters and dimes and a couple other nice coins I'd pay a little bit more for. And I rung up a bunch of ones individually. And the guy was like, oh man, it was my uncle. But he was so enthusiastic. But what I did was I gave an offer that would be in between what a normal dealer would sell it for and what a normal dealer would buy it for. So if, say, a dealer would sell it for, say, I don't know, say it was worth 100, but they'd be buying it for like 50 or 60. I was buying it for like 70 or 80 off of them. And I thought that was the best way of going upon it. But to be this enthusiastic about collecting silver or copper, 45 years, that means it's a big major passion for you, a very productive hobby that has served you for a long time. I don't think there's anything I've done for so long that I keep doing, maybe doing these videos that we're working on 10 years now, but oftentimes I love something for a while, then I get into a different hobby. And wow, to do it for, I mean, I'm not even 45 years old yet, but you think that you would learn about the amazing pennies of the 1920s and 30s, and you'd be buying books about collector pennies and all that type of stuff. You'd have a lot of fun. I just don't understand why someone would turn this much in. That was a gold mine, but really it's a copper and zinc mine. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.